let me bring to the fore the specific topic that gathers us around today. And it is basically the United Nations Global Citizens Assembly, as I just mentioned before. This proposal comes into being within the context of a campaign we are supporting called We the Peoples. And simply put, We the Peoples as a project strives to make global governance a more inclusive and plural arena. Today, once again, we will be presenting the UN World Citizens Initiative. Because of this, I am happy to announce that 3 experts on this topic have joined us today to discuss the UN World Citizens Assembly. And first of all, we have Sanskriti Menon from the Center of Environmental Education in Pune, India, who facilitates the India cluster. Likewise, we have with us Fatima Samba from the School of Collective Intelligence in Morocco, and she facilitates the Francophone cluster. And last but not least, we have John Stever from the Innovation for Policy Foundation, a Pan-African organization, and basically he coordinates the central circle. And finally, as you already know, in order to get you more familiarized with the UN World Citizens Initiative, we already sent you 3 challenges ahead in which you were asked some specific questions on this topic.
So you were asked at first to think about why it is important to decentralize policymaking and how a citizens' assembly can help that. A lot of you responded, and concerns that seems to recur are increasing diversity, making sure that participation runs through all layers of society. A second question that you were asked to address is what the potential stumbling blocks are that a UN Global Citizens Assembly would face. So not just a Global Assembly on Climate Change, but also a permanent tool that would work as a randomly selected Citizens Assembly at the UN level. I think that if we want to sum it up, the main concern, and this is something that's been coming back in every webinar we've had so far, is that of course the world is made up of states that are more democratic and states that are less democratic. And so how can we guarantee participation of people who live in states who are less democratic? And then finally, we've asked you to think about what a sortition process for a Global Citizens Assembly could look like. And someone has described very detailedly the actual sortition process for the Global Assembly that will happen alongside the climate conference in Glasgow, and that we will hear more of. Other people have pointed out that sortition has to adhere to some level to the rules of the nation where participants take part from. And so this, of course, raises also certain difficulty that we can look at in our debate.
So before giving you more details about the Global Assembly, I would like to start by putting more emphasis on our guiding mission, which is to really give everyone a seat at the global governance table. What do we mean by everyone? Are we talking about the people with the loudest voices, people who are experts and technocrats? No, we're talking about ordinary citizens from all layers of society. Now, why do we think that it is crucial to have these people and give them the chance to speak up? Well, we believe that nobody knows how the shoe feels, but the people wearing that shoe, not the designer of the shoe, not the maker of the shoe, but the one wearing it.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the what. So I think many of us, when we think about a global assembly, we're thinking about what we call the core assembly. This is the 100-person descriptively representative body that's going to be selected through a process of sortition, otherwise called a civic lottery. And we're going to be bringing people together that are descriptively representative about location, around gender, educational levels, which is essentially our proxy for socioeconomic status. And then importantly, we're also going to be stratifying our sortition to ensure that we're representative in terms of people's perspectives on the climate emergency. The second is what we call the community assemblies. The idea is that this DIY toolkit can be appropriated and participants can walk through the same kind of learning journey as the participants in the core assembly. So then the third piece of the global assembly this year is what we're calling the cultural wave. This is an opportunity for people not just to share their inputs in a sort of, a structured deliberation, but also to be able to react to it with cultural and creative inputs.
On a global level, we are losing democracy now, and autocratic and not anti-democratic power is getting stronger and stronger. And to my mind, the only way to defend this, if we have more love and passion for democracy by the ordinary people. So to my mind, governments and parliaments are not strong enough to defend democracy against the enemies of democracy.
It is not a secret that we are facing a democratic deficit in which we struggle to get people truly involved in the decision-making process all over the world. How can we, through this Global Citizens Assembly, effectively tackle this issue down? I mean, this democratic deficit. I mean, if those recommendations that citizens will provide are not binding, but for the policymakers, wouldn't we probably wasting our efforts?
I think there are several opportunities because I think we do need this community of practice with people who've been thinking about democracy, who've been thinking about methods of deepening democracy to really sort out some of these questions. So it's not as though we have all the answers or even some of the answers. I think there's quite a lot of work to be done in reconstructing and reimagining what democracy would be in our times now.
I would like to thank to all the participants for attending to this webinar session. This was, as I mentioned before, a workshops series. This is the very last one, but we already had 3 other sessions in the past. I also want to thank, on behalf of Democracy International, to the GLS Treuhand organization or foundation for the financial support, which made this happen. Have an amazing rest of the day, and thank you for joining us today.